3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Steve.
Sridhar, you're not live yet. Hold on one moment. It's still processing on my end.
Okay,
Sorry.
no worries.
Now you're live.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to City Parks and Community Services Commission meeting of August 12, 2020. I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:05. Item number 2, roll call. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Before I call roll, I would like to make an announcement to the committee regarding the teleconferencing of this meeting. Prior to roll call, I would like to make it clear for the record of this meeting, and it should be reflected in the minutes, that the governor has issued 2 executive orders relaxing the requirements pertaining to remote meetings under the Brown Act. To facilitate social distancing and to slow the spread of the coronavirus pandemic, the executive orders authorize state and local legislative bodies, including this committee, to hold public meetings by teleconference more easily. These provisions will remain in effect during the period in which state or local public health officials have imposed or recommended social distancing measures. The order allows the committee to proceed with its members participating electronically or telephonically. Committee members are no longer required to be physically present in a meeting in order to participate or to establish a quorum. The agency must provide a means for the public to observe the meeting and to provide the public an opportunity to comment electronically or telephonically. The opportunities for public observation and participation must be and have been included in the meeting notice. The procedures adopted for this meeting have been established to meet or exceed the standards set forth in the order. For more information, please refer to Governor Gavin Newsom's Executive Order N-25-20. I will now take roll, after which I would ask the chair to recognize me in order to confirm certain matters for the record. Commissioner Dorlick.
Present.
Commissioner Birnbaum.
Here.
Commissioner Oslin.
Present.
Commissioner Roberts.
Here.
Vice Chair Lopez Lucy.
Present.
Chair Veros.
Present.
Thank you. I have 3 questions for the committee members. I'll ask all 3 questions, and if the answer is yes to all 3 questions, please say yes and raise your hand. Question number 1, can you hear me well?
Yes.
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 Question number 2, have you been able to hear all previous speakers, including the roll call, clearly?
Yes.
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 Heidi, I didn't hear you.
Okay, so you want me to respond even though I haven't been sworn in? Yes. I
Oh,
can-
that's right.
Yeah, I haven't been sworn in.
That's
I'm
right.
unofficial as of yet.
That's right. Are you satisfied based on facial or voice recognition or otherwise that everyone here representing themselves to be a committee member is actually the person they are representing themselves to be?
Yes.
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 The record should reflect that I have received affirmative answers from each committee member present to all 3 questions. And finally, I would like to advise the committee that any votes taken during this meeting must be taken by roll call. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 3, Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk, please lead us.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 4, special announcements. We'll start with 4.1, swearing in of student commissioner and new commissioner for parks and new parks commissioner.
Thank you. Good evening. It is my pleasure to administer the oath of office to our newly appointed Parks Commissioner and our Student Commissioner. And because we are using Zoom this evening, I will start with Heidi Kenneth-Stinley. I'll administer the oath first, and then I'll do it separately for the Student Commissioner, so that way we can hear both sides more clearly. So Heidi, if you can repeat after me, please raise your right hand.
Okay.
So I state your name,
I, Heidi Keniston Lee,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And then
Thank you for chunking that up really, really small portion, City Clerk.
I said I would. Amrita, so please raise your right hand. I state your name,
I, Amrita Ramesh,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Excellent. Item number 4.2, temporary employee of the month of July 2020, Katie Serafin, presented by Kevin Box, Recreation Coordinator.
Thank you for the Parks Commission to have me here tonight. I'm honored to be here to congratulate Katie Serafin for being selected as the City of San Ramon's Temporary Employee of the Month for July 2020. Katie started working for the Aquatics Division in September 2018, and she's currently a lifeguard too. Katie works to keep patrons safe in and out of the water, as well as providing excellent customer service during lap swim and user group rentals here at the aquatic facilities. Katie is a reliable staff member, even when working at the 5 a.m. shifts. She consistently goes the extra mile and completes tasks with a positive attitude. Katie continues to expand her operational knowledge and demonstrates excellent customer service skills throughout her shifts. Recently, she assisted the pool manager by leading her fellow lifeguards through the midday COVID-19 cleaning procedures. She was also assisting customers and making sure that the pool was properly prepared for the next lap swim session. So we really appreciated that. Katie will be starting her senior year at California High School tomorrow, and we're excited to have Katie continue to work for the City of San Ramon during the upcoming fall and winter seasons. The Parks and Community Services Department would like to take this opportunity to thank Katie for her dedicated contributions to the department and to the City of San Ramon. Thank you, Katie.
Is Katie on this call?
No.
Okay. Congratulations, Katie. Thank you. Thanks for all your great services for City of San Ramon. Okay, with that, I'm going to.
Shadar, I'd like to add, we also have special announcements by Kathy Hyman.
Oh, okay, sorry. Right. Yeah, please, Kathy, please go ahead.
Thank you. I was going to dive in there myself. I just had a couple of things that are kind of important. I needed to make sure you knew. One, we had at our last meeting, you might recall, we had the few people used the term abstain as it related to approving a motion. And so in looking into that a little bit more, the actual definition of abstain is to formally decline to vote either for or against a proposal or motion. So in effect, it becomes kind of a nothing vote. So for example, if we had 3 people that voted in favor of an item and 2 who opposed it and 1 who abstained, the motion would pass because the abstain doesn't count one way or the other. So it's important that you know that. So on any vote, if you abstain, that you are saying you are not taking a side either way, but it doesn't count as a for or against either. Does everyone understand?
Mhm.
Okay, we need that clarity. Then also, it's that time again, every 2 years, we need to find a new poet laureate or reappoint our existing one. And so to that end, we are beginning to advertise for that position. And we have a process whereby we have a joint committee of the Arts Advisory Committee and the Parks Commission who interview the candidates and then make a recommendation to the full commission. In this case, we do 2 Parks Commissioners and 1 Arts Advisory Committee member. So I need 2 committee members who are willing to do the interviews on Tuesday, August 25th at 5 p.m. Is there anybody that knows they can commit to that day and time since that's when they're planned? Heidi?
What was the date again? I'm sorry.
Tuesday, August 25th at 5 p.m.
Kathy, I can.
It looks as though Commissioner Keniston Lee and Commissioner Dorlick would be interested. So that's fine unless there's somebody else who really wants to.
I can be an alternate if somebody can't make it.
Thank you so much.
Was that 5 p.m. or 5:30?
5 p.m.
5 p.m. Thank you.
And then finally, one last quick note, and if you didn't already catch it in all the different news releases, the Story Walk in Central Park has been completed. Brad Morris and his team did a great job pulling that collaboration together. You'll see it also in the rec report, but I wanted to draw your attention to it. So if you get a chance to take a walk in Central Park, that you come see those Story Walk panels, which we couldn't have done without the support of the Rotary, the Contra Costa County Library, the Library Foundation, and of course the city. So just wanted to point that out to everyone and encourage everyone to go take a walk. That's it for today. I'm going to need to move my computer around though, because I seem to have gotten into the dark.
Thank you, Kathy.
So take a hike.
Let's move to item 5, public comment or written communication at this time. Those in the audience are encouraged to address the Parks and Community Services Commission on any item not already included in tonight's agenda. Members of the public who are participating via Zoom will have an opportunity to make comments to the Parks and Community Services Commission live through the Zoom application. Comments should not exceed 3 minutes. Comments from the public under public comment may also be submitted by email to ctoman@sanramon.ca.gov. No commission action can be taken at this meeting on issues raised during public comment, whether submitted by email or Zoom. Written public comment emails must be submitted to the Parks and Community Services Department prior to the commencement of the meeting. Reading of the public comment emails into the record by the recording secretary will be limited in duration to 3 minutes each. Madam Clerk, any public comment, please?
We do have one person to speak. Miles, please announce your name for the record, and then you may go ahead and speak.
Yeah, thank you, Christy. My name is Miles Mochizuki, and I live at 315 Jory Lane in Windermere. And that's in the Shelburne condominium complex. That's right at the border, right on Alamo Creek. And so it's right at the dividing line between Yale Ranch and Windermere. I moved there in 2018. I first purchased my home in San Ramon in 1988. So I've lived here for 32 years, or called San Ramon my home, permanent home, for 32 years. Raised 3 kids here. The place on Jory Lane is my 3rd home in San Ramon. So I went through the cycle of upsizing and downsizing. And so I'm back in a condominium and enjoying that. Anyway, Suyin Park is the neighborhood park that is a few minutes walk away from my home. And it's a cute little park. It's good for families and little kids, of which there are a lot in my neighborhood. In the park are two bocce courts, and my request is that either one or both of the bocce courts be converted to sand play areas. Now, I think that this would be a much better use of the space that's occupied by the courts. And I also think that it would be a simple matter of convert them by simply filling them with a layer of sand. There's nothing else that would be required as far as I can see. I presented this request to the staff and was told that the courts have sufficient usage to justify continuing their use as is. This is contrary to my personal observation. And I frequent the park. I walk by the park every day. And I walk through the park and use the park very often. And I've never seen the courts used for their intended purpose, which is to have bocce games. The only use that I've seen of those courts is when some children mistakenly think that it is a sand play area and bring their sand toys there and try to use it in that way and try to dig, into the hard packed surface of the courts. Mostly the courts just sit there unused. They're gathering leaves and just represent empty space. So anyone who has had kids knows that sand and kids, just a match made in heaven. They can spend hours playing in it. The sand has disappeared from our playgrounds largely because of regulations regarding handicap access and equipment fall attenuation, neither of which apply to the space in question. So I can see that my 3 minutes are up, and I thank you for your attention. I'll look forward to the commission's favorable response to my request.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Then we go ahead and close the public comment at this time. Okay, with that, next item 6, approval of minutes. 6.1, Parks and Community Services regular meeting, July 8th, 2020, 7 p.m.
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, then go for vote.
All right, Commissioner Dorlick,
Yes.
Commissioner Kensington Lee,
Abstain.
Commissioner Birnbaum,
Aye.
Commissioner Oslin,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Aye.
and Vice Chair Lopez Lucy,
Yes.
Chair Veros.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, let's go to item number 7, consent calendar. Consent calendar are considered routine and are acted upon by the Parks and Community Services with a single action. Members of the audience wishing to provide public input may request that the commission remove the item from the consent. Madam Clerk, any consent calendar, please?
We do not.
Thank you. With that, let's move to item number 8, commission business. 8.1, Ring and Rock Foundation Conversion Project Update, CIP 500001, presented by Teresa Peterson, Associate Engineer.
Hello, I'm Teresa Peterson. I'm an associate engineer here at the City of San Ramon. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So good evening. I wanted to thank you for your time tonight to discuss the Ring and Rock Fountain conversion project. In 2018, staff presented a plan to the Parks and Community Services Commission to convert the fountain into a landscape planter. At that time, the concept was approved. However, we were asked to finalize the design and incorporate a few items such as shade, a seating area, fountain wall aesthetics, and also signage if possible. So tonight I'd like to present our updated design, which incorporates those previous comments. And then Christy, would you mind pulling up the Exhibit A on your screen? And this is the same exhibit that was in the packages so that everyone could get familiar with it ahead of time. Great. Okay, and just the first page, please. Thank you. Okay, so the current fountain, the existing fountain consists of a large rock fountain in the front and then a small ring fountain in the back patio area. The front fountain will become a planter with drought-tolerant plant material. It's a mix of colorful shrubs, perennials, and grasses. The back fountain we're proposing will become a rose bed of pink roses. For the wall aesthetics, we're proposing a new coat of stucco to enhance the appearance of the wall. And then we did look at signage, but because there is limited room behind the wall, the plants are large and they're going to take up most of the wall space for visibility. We don't recommend that any additional signage is added because it will either be covered by the plants. There's just really no space for it. So that's the only thing that we saw that we didn't feel like there was a way to really incorporate that. Seating areas were requested. So we are planning with this design proposal to install both benches and seating areas that have tables and chairs, and that's in the back patio area. Shade was also a concern, adding some shade to the area where people are going to be sitting. And we do have new plant material coming in, which will provide a little bit of shade, but there's also a design for a half circle metal pergola, which will be an absolutely beautiful addition to this area. We would like to install this. However, it's not currently in the budget. Currently, we have budget to do the wall, the planting, the demo, all of that, but the pergola would be something extra. And so we did get some cost estimates, and it will be approximately $100,000 additionally to design and install this pergola. And it is something that is unique. It's something that's hand designed, and it will be almost like a piece of art being used as a pergola. And so we wanted to come to you tonight and show you this design. On page 2 and 3 are more details of the pergola. Christy, if you can, so this is kind of how it's going to look from the side. We'll have tables and chairs, and then the pergola area above. And then the next slide is kind of the details where you can see the next one down where it's a half circle. It kind of complements the building, the San Ramon Community Center that it will be adjacent to. And so the design, the color, everything will hopefully complement the building is the plan. So tonight I just wanted to bring this item to you and receive comments so that we can finalize the design and move forward with construction and hopefully be able to finish this project by the end of the year. If the pergola option is not accepted, we do have a fallback where we could put umbrellas at the tables, and that would protect people from shade. It would give some protection from rain. However, they would need to be replaced periodically, but I just, that is an option also. So I'd like to accept any comments that you have and finalize the design and move forward with construction. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Teresa. And I don't see any hands raised from the, oh, I see public.
All for the public.
So Miles,
Will had his hand up.
Yeah, I do too.
Both physically and digitally. Oh, should I
So Will
go?
would be first.
Okay, great. Thank you. The colorations look great. So in regards to the pergola, is it now or never? I mean, is this something that can be added on at a later time, even if we do have the, chairs and umbrellas? That's question number one. The alternative you already mentioned, and what's the delta in cost between the pergola and then the, kind of more pedestrian, I guess, chairs and umbrellas?
I can go ahead and answer that question. So the plan is that if we're going to move forward with the pergola design, we would like to install that as one of the first items of construction. So one of the first tasks, we'd like to bring that in and install that and get that in place, and then be able to set the benches and the chairs around the area to make sure the pergola is in place, and then set the benches and the chairs so that we have ADA compliance and all of that, we can lay that out. So that is, there is a possibility that we could add it later. However, we would like to take care of that up front. There also would be some cost savings because we have it incorporated into the design already. So when we put the project out for construction, that would be included. Whereas if we added it later, we would likely be paying a mobilization charge for a contractor. So there would be some cost savings with doing it with the rest of the work right now, instead of doing it as a separate piece. So maybe we're saying $100,000 is what we're adding for the pergola. And if we were to do it as a separate piece, maybe we would have to add 10 or 15% to that because of mobilization for a contractor to come back out at a later time. That now, if we went ahead with the chairs and umbrellas approach, I do have chairs and tables already calculated into the budget. And so that fits into our existing budget. The umbrellas wouldn't be, very much more. So that would be able to fit into the existing budget. However, the funding that we're requesting, we're asking for it to come from the City Beautification Fund. Because it is an artistic element, it's an amenity and a feature that would enhance the city as a whole. And so if that's approved, the next step would be moving forward to City Council, preparing a staff report and going to them for their approval of the fund allocation.
Okay, have we looked at any corporate sponsors? I mean, for the additional $100,000? I mean, it could be, a promotional or branding opportunity for someone.
Mm-hmm. No, I have not looked into that as far as getting any type of sponsor or anything.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
We have Dawn and Carol.
I'll go ahead. Okay. I wanted you mentioned in the staff report, the beautification fund, does it currently have $1,500,000? Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, and so to go into that fund, the city council has to approve that, is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Good, okay.
For the allocation, the transfer of funds.
Yes. I think at this time we do have that much beautification, and I think it would add a lot to the center there as you're going into the city community center there. And I think it would be a great attraction, and we're always wanting to incorporate art and everything, and this kind of fits in that sort of area. And so I would like to see it not have table and chairs, because I think that would take away from the aspect that you're trying to do here. And so I'm in favor of asking, then going to approve this project and ask the city council for the additional $100,000 from the beautification fund.
Okay. And the proposal as we have it, the design, does incorporate both the pergola, benches, and tables and chairs under the pergola. And I envision it as a place where people can come and say they're taking a course at the community center and there's a break, or they're waiting for their course to begin, or one of their children is taking the course. They can sit down, read a book, relax, or bring their lunch, have lunch there. That's how I envision the space being used, as kind of a, you know, a really beautiful relaxation area where people can go during the classes or while waiting for someone taking a class. You had mentioned the tables and chairs possibly taking away from the pergola itself.
No,
We
no.
would be able to fit them both.
No, not the table. I did not mean
Oh.
take it away at all. I'm thinking the pergola would add to the beautification of the concept that you're imposing, because, you know, I was on that committee that we looked at it, because there was space behind. You had to go behind the little thing and there was a space, but this will be such a beautification, and it's the entry to your community center. So it does present itself well. So I'm very happy to go with the pergola and ask the city council for the additional money. If you got 1,500,000, you're only asking for 100,000. Sounds like a lot of money, but you'd still have sufficient funds in that beautification fund. So
Yeah.
I think it's a great plan. I think you've done a good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before Dawn and before Heidi speaks, I just want you to know we do have a public comment that would like to speak as well. So you could let the.
Oh, you can.
Let's open. Is that
You want to
okay?
open public comment now?
Public comment.
Great.
Yeah, Miles, please go ahead.
We have Miles.
Yes, Teresa, I'm a resident of San Ramon, and this is by more coincidence than anything that I happen to be part of this discussion. I had a presentation in the public comment section earlier in the meeting. Anyway, I'm very familiar with Central Park. I'm trying to visualize the location of this project. And I think you're talking about the fountains that are in front of the community center.
Correct.
And also the one that's directly in back. And so is the idea that those fountains would be done away with completely?
Yes, those fountains have not worked in over 12 years. They had very expensive mechanical problems that were not repaired. And in fact, the actual electrical mechanical vault for the fountains has already been removed. So the fountain is basically a shell right now, the front fountain and the back fountain just waiting to become a planter.
Right, so the back fountain there's a fountain, there's also a pool area with water. So is all of that going to be removed?
No. The Ring and Rock fountain is the fountain in front that you see of the community center. The back fountain is a very, very small metal ring fountain in the patio area that a lot of people aren't even aware that's there.
I know what you're talking about.
The fountain in the back
Yes.
it has nothing to do with this. It will not be removed it has nothing to do with this project. It won't be removed. It's just.
Okay, so a pergola, I just did a search on that. It's kind of a lattice sort of frame structure that, so how does that provide shade in your plan?
Yeah, so it does have laths at the top. It's a half circle, and so that does provide shade. There is a roof that lets some sunlight in, but it also provides shade through it. There is potential that we could have some type of a vine or something on it to, make it a little more kind of blend in and a little more aesthetic, but it will provide shade just because it does have the roof portion of it, and it does also provide light. It won't give protection from the rain, but it will provide shade.
Okay, comparable to the umbrellas?
Well, the umbrellas would give protection from the rain also. However, I don't think they would be as aesthetically pleasing, and they would need to be replaced over time. so they would get faded from the sun and rain and from being used. So the pergola is definitely more of a long-term item.
Right. And so the last question of this is that, have you considered maintenance of the pergola? And, you know, this is a specific question I have is that it's a wood structure.
It's a
So it'd
metal
be suspect, you know, wood rot would may set in over time, and there would be some maintenance required, either replacement or repainting and so forth.
Yeah, we're proposing a metal structure just for those reasons, because wood does deteriorate and needs to be repainted. And so we're proposing a metal structure, and that's
Got
part
it.
of.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
we're at the 3-minute mark. So,
I'm done.
okay, thank you, Miles.
I hope it's okay. I was answering questions.
For public comment, we want to have the comment for 3 minutes and then we want to continue, but that's fine. Is there any other public comment?
Dawn is next.
Okay, so let's close the public comment and then we'll open up for the commissioners for the questions. Commissioners, okay, Dawn, please go ahead.
So Teresa, thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions. What percent of the overall budget is the pergola? You know, you're saying it's 100,000. What's the total budget?
So the current budget for the project is approximately 248,000. We have spent approximately 19,000 on the vault removal that was completed several months ago. So the pergola itself is an additional $100,000.
It's a significant addition to the project.
It's a very significant addition to the project, yes.
Okay. And do we have any idea of how much usage we're going to see of this? You know, I know we've spent a good amount of money on redoing the entire, community center. How does this fit with that? You know, is it something that we really need to do right now? I know you said that there might be some incremental costs if we delay it, but I just want to be sensitive to, the current situation where the budgets are going to be scrutinized significantly. And, this is, it's a significant increase in the overall budget.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. So it is possible to, that's kind of why we wanted to provide the other option that fits within the budget. Is a significant amount of money. However, it is an aesthetic piece. We do feel that it would enhance the community center. We do feel that it would be used often for people, who are coming out into that area. I don't think a lot of people even really know that that area exists right now. There aren't tables and chairs or anything like that for people to sit at. And so this would be an enhancement, kind of greatly enhance that space and make it more of a usable space for people. I'm not sure about how many people use it now or how many will in the future, but I would assume with chairs and tables being added, it would be a space that people would, come out and use during lunchtime or during breaks or during classes or things of that sort.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next. Any other? Okay. Commissioner Kingston, please.
Okay, I have a couple of questions and a couple of thoughts. Central Park is sort of a jewel in our park's crown, and we want to be proud of it. We want it to look good. And I appreciate that, we're looking at something that would enhance the aesthetic. I am a little sensitive to as Commissioner Birnbaum said, I'm a little bit sensitive to the relative cost of it. So I had a couple questions. I do think also shading is a huge issue in our community. We've had folks for years clamoring for shade structures in our parks. And so I have to think about this in the context of providing shade at other parks for folks who've been waiting for some time. So I'm going to ask my fellow commissioners forgiveness as I get back up to speed on certain things here. But Kathy, can you explain to me, was it out of the beautification fund that at one point the city had, or parks had sort of a priority list of parks where we'd hope to fund some structures, shade structures? I'm curious where we're at with that, and how much would $100,000 go toward getting some shade structures in, say, one or a couple of our parks?
Well, we have a list of shade structures, and we also have the master plan, which also calls out more shade. And so that'll definitely be a part of the discussion. We weren't able to make any headway this last year because we did not have any more funds in the park development fund.
Development.
Yeah, this particular attribute is going from the beautification fund because of its enhancement to the beauty of the main central park, the match of the curved lines in the building, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why they're looking at that as a potential funding source. The beautification fund would not be a funding source for regular park attributes like tables, shade structures, barbecues. It's just probably not the correct use of that fund.
Okay. Yeah, what I do like is I love the fact that we're talking about tables and chairs and something that encourages usage of that, because given our current pandemic, we of course are going to have to make socially distanced usage and enjoyment of our outdoor spaces more amenable, right? And so I could see how this would encourage that in some ways. And so, yeah, so that answers my question. Thank you, Kathy. Good clarification. That was it.
I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Von Mo.
Teresa, what other uses have we used the Park Beautification Fund for? And do we have other items on a list to utilize those funds?
So it's my understanding that the city beautification funds can only be used for an amenity or a feature that will enhance the city as a whole. So something that's on a main corner, on an arterial roadway, or something, or even like our aesthetic landscaping or something like that. Now, as far as where we have used those funds in the past, I may have to defer to maybe Scott may have some information on that. I'm not positive. This would be likely the first project that I would be proposing to use those funds for. Sorry,
Kathy,
Scott.
Kathy, can you shed any light on that, of where we've used park beautification funds, and do we have any potential projects that would utilize that money?
Well, I think it's something we can definitely look at through the lens of the master plan, and some of those pieces we're going to start working on soon. I know in the past, the fee structures have changed somewhat. So Park Beautification Fund used to be used, or the Beautification Fund, for public art in parks, although now there is public art fee, so it's a different fund. Scott's also on here, he popped in, so I'm not sure if he has a better picture of some of the things they've used for it lately.
Good evening, Commission. This is the City Beautification Fund. It's not just earmarked for the parks, the park system also. So it's throughout the city. And as I think Teresa hit it right on the head, what it's normally used for is something for the enjoyment and the enhancement of facilities and areas throughout the city, so we all can enjoy it. And as we all know, Central Park is just that, our Central Park, our gem. And this proposal is for an area that is underused, and it's right at the entrance to the new renovated community center, and it really in its current state really doesn't lend anything to the building. The landscape and the pergola would certainly make this entire project whole. So that's just my 2 cents, but so
as a side question, what the funding for the utility boxes, we have taken that money from another source. Could we use, and this is a secondary question, could we use funds out of the beautification to do the artwork on the utility boxes?
Well, we have a public art fund specifically now that's collecting funds from the developers that funds the utility boxes and all the public art in town. At the earlier time, before we had the public art fund, we did use the beautification fund for that.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Nope. Okay, I see still one more hand raised here.
Scott is up next.
Commissioner Scott.
Muted.
Muted.
Scott, you're muted right now. We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I don't know when I muted myself, but Commissioner Birnbaum essentially asked my initial questions regarding the financial piece to this. I too will have to admit that, you know, it seems a little concerning that the cost seems pretty high for an area that is not really used. So that, you know, just kind of thinking about that, the design looks amazing. I think it's beautiful. I mean, the way that it looks is fantastic. But my one question would be is that when we decided to not redo the fountains, what was the cost when it was too expensive? What was the cost then to redo the fountains?
To repair the fountains?
Right, repair them, right.
I'm not aware of that. That was more than 12 years ago. I'm not sure if anyone else on the panel or here has that information. I'm not sure what the cost was.
Yeah, 12 years ago is a long time ago, and I'm sure costs are different. I was just curious because if we decided not to do it back then, it was too costly. I'm just curious what the difference between that cost and the cost today of what we're trying to do. So,
Commissioner Robert, we'd be glad to research that and get back to you as far as those numbers if you'd like.
Well, there also, there was a point in time where there was state drought restrictions. So fountains couldn't be run. And then, so a lot of the fountains that we have, well, some of the fountains have been, like the Canyon Lakes fountain is currently being converted into a landscape area also because it is so costly to run these fountains. And when we do have the drought restrictions, which, you know, we may have again in the future, we have to turn these off and then the pumps aren't being used. And then if a fountain was working prior to being turned off for a long period of time, there's a good chance that once you turn it on again, there's going to be some mechanical costs, and they are very costly to repair, costly to maintain also. So, you know, in addition to fixing it, there's also the maintenance associated with it.
Right. I just read in the document, it just said that it was costly or too costly. I just was curious exactly what that meant.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the exact costs, but we can research that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Osland?
I really like the design. I think it's aesthetically pleasing. I like how it complements the fountain. I just really like the pergola and the thoughtfulness that enhances and complements the fountain. But I think I'm a little concerned about the cost of the pergola too. The umbrellas, are they fabric canvas umbrellas that you're looking at if we don't do the metal pergola?
Yeah, I think that if we did not do the pergola and we went with the umbrellas, we would try to find something that covers the table and chair area and that potentially has some type of protective coating to be able to allow it to last as long as possible with sun exposure and rain exposure. So some type of a canvas material that may have some type of like a UV protectant or something with it. However, they will fade. The color they'll have to be changed possibly annually or you know, somewhere around there, just because they'll start fading and things like that. And we potentially may need to have someone come to close the umbrellas when you know, the community center shuts down itself, because we don't want to, it's a high wind area there too. And so you don't want to have any issues with the umbrellas unfolding, possibly. So there may be some area there where we have to have someone come and make sure, you know, at night where they make sure things are locked up, they make sure these umbrellas are closed up also. But I would think they would probably be replaced. My guess would be either every year or every other year, just because of fading and wear and tear on them. And we'd be looking likely some type of canvas umbrella.
And how many are you thinking? Like 3?
Yeah,
Or-
so right now we have 4 tables with 4 chairs each is what we think is going to fit into the design. So there would be 4.
Would they go in between, you know, like a patio table with the hole in the middle of the table?
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking that, you know, since this is a new space, that maybe that's, I understand the reason that wanting to have the pergola built now, because there's cost savings overall because it's part of the full project. But since it's a new space, maybe this is a way to see if the space will be utilized by visitors to do it more in a cost-effective way, to purchase canvas and umbrellas or whatever other material to introduce it. Just a thought.
If I could make 2 comments, one about the materials used on the current day umbrellas is a lot like the shade structure materials we use throughout our city. We've got a number of shade structures that have the sunscreen fabric on it, and those are probably their useful life as far as depending on their exposure to the sun, whether it be western or southern exposure, would probably be anywhere between 5 and 7 years. This particular exposure probably will last longer because it's on the northeast side of the building. It'll get more sun during the summertime, obviously, but the rest of the year the sun fades back over. So the expected life of these umbrellas would be much longer than usual. And just one comment as far as delaying the installation of the pergola, if that is something you'd like to do. As Teresa said, there's mobilization costs, there's escalation costs as far as construction and materials in the future also that we don't know about. But there's also moving back on site after something's been established for 3, 4, 5 years, depending on when we do it. You've got a demolition factor that you have to take into effect. You've got to demolish irrigation, demolish landscape, possible patios to put footings in. So it's not as easy as just plopping a structure like this down. There's a lot of foundational work that needs to go to along with it. So please keep that in mind as far as delaying this if that is part of the cost.
Thank you.
Chair Rose, Director Feinerer, Maria Feinerer is on the line and has her hand raised and would like to speak.
Please, Maria Frenner, please go ahead. Looks like she got dropped.
Oh, Christy,
There she goes.
Yeah, I saw her raising hand, but yeah.
Here I am. My face isn't there. Is my face gone? That is very strange. Well, can you hear me? Okay. Anyway, good evening, commissioners. My name is Maria Ferner. I'm the Public Works Director. I just wanted to jump in on the costs that have been brought up associated with this proposal. Although the cost upwards of $100,000 seems like a lot, the funding is coming from the City Beautification Fund. And it's important to note that the City Beautification Fund, we do need to program this funding, otherwise we will lose it. So these are developer fees that need to be allocated to specific projects. And if they are not allocated over, I believe it's a 5-year period, then we will lose that funding. So for having $1.5 million, and we have very minimal projects being funded by this funding source, then I just wanted to share with the commissioners that if we don't use the $100,000 and we don't have projects that are allocated over the next 5 years, we could lose that funding. So just wanted to share that information with all of you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
Yes, I wanted to point out I was on the committee, I don't know how many, it was a couple of 3 years ago, where we voted to have this change because nobody knew about how you could get into there and that you could sit behind there. Nobody ever used it. Most people didn't even know there. So we're the ones that wanted to bring this forward so that the people, the community could have access to sitting and sitting there and enjoying it. And so, I mean, we were the ones that brought it because it didn't get used. And now I really feel with the aesthetics and everything, and as Heidi said, with our distancing, I think this will be used extremely well. And I think because it's coming from the beautification fund, I still think that this $100,000 is well worth spent for use and for aesthetics also. And I think it'll get much more use than you have just umbrellas sitting there. That's my comment.
Commissioner Keniston Lee.
Actually, I think Commissioner Dorlick was ahead of me. I'll
For my screen, like I just go with this.
I will cede the floor initially to my honorable commission from Windermere. You want to go, Heidi, or want me to go?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So if I could ask Maria, so you said there are minimal projects for the 1.5 million of the beautification fund. Do we have a priority list? Do we have projects that are slated for the funding, a priority list, if you will, and where would this fall in that?
You're muted.
Sorry. Currently, this is the only project that is being funded by the City Beautification Fund in our 5-year CIP. I don't believe we have any large ticketed type projects. So right now we don't even have a priority list. That is definitely something that we look at every year when we're developing the 5-year CIP. So right now, I don't have my 5-year CIP in front of me, but I believe this is the only large significant project in the next 5 years.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Dorlick.
Thank you. So 2 questions. You just mentioned that there were no projects in the next 5 years. Are there any areas within the Bishop Ranch development proposal that utilizes the beautification fund?
No, there are not.
Okay, so none anticipated in there.
Correct.
Okay, so my second question is, there's some prep work. It was indicated, I think Scott mentioned that there would be some preparation work needed for the structure that would require either demolition or an adjustment to the existing structure if we waited to do it at a later date.
What I was referring to, Commissioner Dorlich, was if we go in and we construct it as is without the pergola, to go back in and to put the pergola in afterwards, there would be some demolition in order to get equipment in there to build it, to build the foundations. So whatever we put in initially would have to be portions of it, not all of it, but there would be some damage and then restoration of that, which would add to the cost.
Okay, so what would be the initial cost to build that structure, build that foundation and build that area for attachment at a later date? What's the incremental cost to actually provide the infrastructure to attach at a future date a structure such as this, rather than retrofitting it, build it into the design, but not the actual structure until it's maybe a more appropriate time?
Teresa, would you like to answer that, or would you?
Yeah, I would say if we include the remobilization costs that we would be incurring, and then also restoration costs for getting equipment in there and things like that, and construction, I would say maybe 25% at the moment.
That wasn't my question. My question is what would be the incremental cost to design it into the original design so there wasn't a disruption when and if it's determined that we want to put this structure up at a later time? So in other words, you build in the infrastructure in the initial project. What's the incremental cost to that, rather than going in afterwards and disrupt it? So that basically it's a plug and play. If 2 years from now, 3 years from now, it's a little bit different fiscal scenario, and we go, you know what, 100,000. Is the structure itself just 100,000, or what's the incremental cost to provide the infrastructure to attach the pergola at a later time.
I think I know what you're talking about, Commissioner Dorlich. As Teresa said, this $100,000 is a budget figure that we've come to. We don't have a engineer design yet. These are just budget figures we're going with. So as far as the engineer design of the footings and what we need to do as far as all the foundational work still needs to be determined. Now, whether it would be above ground or in ground, there would still be considerations as far as how that would interact with mobility, as Teresa also mentioned earlier about ADA requirements.
Sure.
And also safety issues. If you've got footings that are just sitting there, they could be trip hazards and things such as that. So that is something we'd have to research and see if we could break those costs out. So, but once again, you've got dual mobilization there too. So you're paying two costs to do that. So no matter, economies of scale always dictate that you try to do everything at once. So you get the most bang for your buck on this. And that's what we're trying to do. But we certainly can research those numbers for you.
Yeah, it's kind of like pre-wiring your home without installing the actual equipment, but it's ready to go, plug and play whenever you want to, purchase the equipment.
If I may answer, give you a range, it'd probably be 25,000 to 50,000.
To do the
incremental cost.
Okay, yes. to be able, and then what's the actual structure cost then?
The actual structure cost, we don't have that estimate yet, but Teresa could probably give you.
I do have some numbers. Design, we have approximately 20,000. That's to do the actual structural design, have the plan stamped and signed by a structural engineer and all of that. And then for fabrication and installation is approximately 80,000. So 100,000 total. And I know you had mentioned the possibility of kind of pre-plumbing the area and then installing the pergola later. However, it sounds like these funds have an expiration date, and if we don't use them, do they potentially go back to the developer or wherever they were submitted from? So I guess depending on when we actually, were to move forward with this, if funds were available at that time. Right now they are, but I don't know if they're 5 years. I don't know when that 5-year began, and how much time we have to use them. And I believe this, like Maria said, this is the only project we have right now that we'd be using those funds for.
Okay, so this is a custom fabrication project, not a purchase of an existing structure that could fit into the area.
Right, correct.
Okay, has that been looked at, and is there a cost savings if you kind of buy it off the shelf?
We have discussed that. However, we're looking for something that is really provides very good aesthetics, something that really enhances the area and blends well with the building, something that kind of coincides with the Central Park being our crown jewel, and something of that same caliber. And so therefore things that you can purchase like at Costco or something like that just didn't.
Well, I wasn't thinking Costco, but there are, we don't buy our park, recreational equipment from Costco, but we buy them from a vendor that specializes in recreational equipment. So that's what I was referring to more than, I don't think we're going to put a pop-up in there.
They do have some nice, things. But yeah, as far as this would be, an original design, it would be metal fabrication. It's something that would be unique to the city of San Ramon, something that we think people would come to see and take a look at just that while they're at the park, say, oh yeah, we want to take a look at that pergola and sit down and have some lunch or something there. So it's just, we think would be a really beautiful amenity to the community center in the park.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think the short answer to that would be that a prefab structure didn't really match up to the look that we were trying to achieve for the community center. So that's why we're looking at custom design to match the look of the community center.
Commissioner Birnbaum?
I have one question and then one comment. My question to you, Kathy, is how much did we spend on the community center remodel?
I'm gonna turn to Maria because I think she has that probably on the tip of her tongue. Or
Actually, Scott can answer this question. He's been working specifically on this project.
We're just finishing up reconciling the budget, Commissioner Birnbaum, and it's approximately about $1.9 million so far.
So roughly $2 million, and we're talking about $100,000 to add a artistic feature to a building that we've reinvested $2 million into it. And I am the one that brought up the financial question at the beginning, and I'm now regretting that I did that because I think we've whipped this dog to death. I personally am at a position that I am willing to move forward with a vote, and I would be voting in affirmative to move forward with the new structure.
Thank you, Commissioner Birnbaum. Is any other commissioners would like to?
No, I'm ready to make a motion if everyone's finished discussing.
One quick comment from my side. I remember being on the facilities committee while reviewing this along with Commissioner Lopez Lucy. And I still remember we had two options, whether to repair and get the fountains up and running, or the other option was to go with the landscape. And I remember when we reviewed, it was almost 50% less than the cost of fountains. On top of it, the water, as well as the water charges, as well as the maintenance charges, all those things we took into consideration, and we wanted to minimize the cost. That's why we went with this option. And one more thing I still remember is that we wanted to have some artifact which will represent like San Ramon, where the visitors can take pictures, like any small artifact that stays like San Ramon or Welcome San Ramon, something like that. So that like even I see now in Danville, they have like this heart shape, right? Where people go and take pictures. So something like that. We had that conversation during that. So definitely, as I said, once again, we looked at it as the lowest possible cost option. And thanks everyone for chipping into it. So let's go with the motion.
Oh, Heidi has a comment.
Chair Veros, may I say one more thing, please? My last comment. Something that came to mind for me in considering this as an art piece is any kind of San Ramon branding that, without increasing the cost, could be incorporated into the design. I'm just throwing that out into the universe because I quite love the Danville Hearts, actually, and I think perhaps something for the city, the San Ramon Universe, to consider would be some kind of use of crows or whatever in the community. And so I just say that I wouldn't want it to increase the cost per se, but it would be nice to consider how the design might reflect the character of San Ramon. So I leave that to the Teresa engineers of the world and so forth to look at, but it would be nice to give it some kind of flair in that way if we could. That's all.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with that. That was actually, we had conversation during the facilities committee meeting. And
one last comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner.
I just want to say thank you to Scott, Maria, and Teresa for taking the time this evening to help us navigate this thing. And I know we had a lot of questions, but the information that you provided really put some, created some clarity for what's going on. And so just wanted to thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so with that, can we go ahead and move? Anyone for move the motion?
I move that we proceed with the ring and rock fountain conversion project that was presented this evening.
Any second? Okay, moved and second. Any further discussion?
Carol, do you want to add in there that we also are approving the pergola as part of that project?
We can certainly add that. Yes, improve the project as presented, including the pergola.
A second.
Thank you. So moved and second. Any further discussion? I think, okay. So,
Quick question. Do we want to have anything in there that says if the cost of that exceeds the $100,000 that we have a kind of revisit that just to know what the budget looks like?
I would not prefer that to be in the motion. Because
Okay.
I think our engineers have done a very good job at cost, and I trust them, and we have the money in the account for that.
Okie dokie.
okay, Madam Clerk, can we go for the vote?
Ready for roll call? Commissioner Dorlick,
Yes.
Commissioner Kensington Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Birnbaum,
Aye.
Commissioner Oslin,
Aye.
Commissioner Roberts,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez Lucy,
Aye.
Chair Veros.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, next, go to item 8.2, formation of an ad hoc committee for Crow Canyon Gardens, presented by Kathy Hyman, Parks and Community Services Director.
All right. Well, I'm here this evening to talk about Crow Canyon Gardens and to seek approval for the formation of an ad hoc committee to establish a programming plan and an updated conceptual plan for Crow Canyon Gardens and the associated buildings. So just to get everybody up to speed and to give you a little bit of the background, the City Council, as you know, adopted our Parks, Trails, Open Space and Recreation Master Plan just in June. The plan looked at all of our city parks, trails, and facilities and made some recommendations for improvement and enhancement over the next 10 years. And that's going to be a major initiative for our staff and for the commission. Crow Canyon Gardens in the plan is the only park in the current park inventory that is identified as being in poor condition, which is defined in the plan as facilities that need major repairs to the point that the facilities are unusable and discourage the use of the park. So the plan includes a very specific goal related to the renovation of the park that identifies improvements as a high priority that should be completed within the next 5 years. The goal itself reads, enhance Crow Canyon Gardens, parking, restrooms, improved creek access, safety and lighting, nature-based play, self-guided interpretation signage, increased number of rentable garden plots, renovation of demonstration garden. Crow Canyon Garden includes community gardens, demonstration gardens, and the former Muds restaurant building. Major park renovations are needed to make the park more inviting. Improvements should reflect the site's natural setting and connect with the landscape, environment, and adjacent creek and help maintain a serene environment where residents can connect and engage with nature. So that was what is listed actually in the master plan. The renovation of the property is estimated to cost approximately $4.3 million, really depending on what attributes are included and the level of renovation that is established for the park. Unfortunately, at this point, this park is not currently allocated or planned for in the Capital Improvement Program or CIP. And at this point, as you also know, the Nature Park Foundation approached the city with a plan to raise funds to renovate the Muds restaurant buildings, parking lot, and a portion of the adjacent park attributes at the gardens. Now, in exchange for this, they have an idea of what they'd like to do in the park, which is offer classes and programs and events primarily run by foundation volunteers on site. They want the ability to sell sponsorships to businesses and individuals with permanent recognition for their sponsors on site. They would like priority for scheduling classes, events, and programs also on the park site. And of course, they would like some dedicated office space and ample storage space for foundation supplies and equipment in the newly renovated buildings, if they're able to raise the funds to do that. So the Parks and Community Services Department staff were tasked with developing an MOU with the foundation to try and clarify what that relationship would be and how a partnership could work. City staff and the Nature Park Foundation have met several times over the last 6 months and truly agree on many points that could be included in the MOU. However, it did come to light through the conversations that a final conceptual plan and programming plan for the park would be needed before an MOU really could be executed. And that's really because the Nature Park Foundation has a very specific vision for the layout of the park and the park attributes, the renovation of the buildings, and they would not necessarily be interested in fundraising for the renovation if the conceptual plan and programming plan are not conducive to their vision of what the nature park could be. Now, I think also, as most of you know, the Parks Commission approved several motions a while back related to Crow Canyon Gardens, and really kind of clarified their opinion that the park be maintained in its natural state with minimal additional amenities that only enhance the natural state of the park. So this is where there's a difference in how the park may be viewed by the Nature Park Foundation versus what the Parks Commission talked about in their initial recommendations for the park. So in general, the really great news about this is there is consensus that Crow Canyon Gardens is a unique and valuable park, and that the park should continue to focus on highlighting the natural environment, provide a location for the community garden, and provide better access to the creek. So everybody, no matter who, what group, where, when, or why, really, once you visited that park, you know that this is true. It's the most beautiful, unique park in our entire system, and it deserves to be made more accessible to people to see it. So we've had several surveys and reports have been generated via all of the master plan, outreach events, public meetings to try and identify the community's vision for the park and to begin the process of creating a conceptual plan for the park. All of the ideas and plans generated need to be reviewed along with the information gathered in our outreach summary report and our newly adopted recreation master plan. So at this point, staff is recommending the formation of an ad hoc committee to review all of the plans, of which there are several, and data that has been gathered, discuss them as a group with the best interest of all the citizens in mind, and make a recommendation to the full commission in regard to a programming plan and a conceptual plan for the park. So if it's approved, it's envisioned that an ad hoc committee would meet maybe 4 to 6 times in the next couple of months, so it would be a fairly rapid process. The Parks Commission would still maintain the authority and power to agree, disagree, or modify whatever the ad hoc committee brings forward. So they wouldn't be making a permanent decision, but ideally the process would help daylight all the different ideas and narrow the concepts to something that would meet both the Parks Commission's vision for the park as a natural setting and the Nature Park Foundation's vision, and in general, the community's vision for what that park could be. So once a conceptual plan and a program plan have been approved by the full commission, staff would continue to work with the Nature Park Foundation to finalize an MOU for review and approval by the full Parks Commission at a later date. So in looking at an ad hoc committee, staff recommended a list of participants, which you probably can see in your staff report, but I will review. So in theory, staff thought that 2 Parks Commissioners would be appropriate. This is similar to the library ad hoc committee that had been done a few years back. And then we would have 1 non-voting alternate in case somebody was unable to make it. We'd like to maybe consider 2 Nature Park Foundation members, since they are the group that is volunteering to provide a large amount of funds to renovate the buildings. We suggest, because we have advisory committees and they represent other full groups of people, that a teen council representative that would have a youth viewpoint would be a good addition, as a senior citizen advisory committee member also would have a unique perspective on the park. We have a couple of very large user groups in the park, one being the community garden. And so because those people are committed and they have a large cadre of people who enjoy and use the park on a regular basis, we think that an at-large member that's a community gardener would make sense. And the volunteer group who tends the demonstration garden now on a weekly basis and puts all those plants in the greenhouse and does all of those pieces, we think a member from that group would also have a very vested interest in talking about what might be in that park. And then there are the people who live close by. There are apartments that are right next to it, and then there are neighbors that are across the creek. It would be great to have at least 1 member that lives within the close radius to the park, because they have a different perspective as well. And then finally, we think that a member that is special needs person in the community or that has a special needs child, again, might have a unique perspective on access, because the way down to the creek is difficult if you're not really able to walk easily. And so some of those perspectives I think would be helpful. So in theory, that would be the primary feedback for the committee. And then to support that, we would be looking at some of the staff from the different departments. Now, they might not need to necessarily come to every meeting, but we would want to have some department staff there to be able to lead the process and then also answer questions. And that would be someone from Parks and Community Services Management, someone from our operations division, because they're the people who oversee our facilities and how they operate, someone from the Public Works Department who oversee all of our parks and their maintenance, someone from the Public Works Engineering Department, because they quite simply understand the engineering issues that relate to the creek and the properties. And then a city staff person potentially as a note taker scribe to keep track of everything that gets discussed. And then as needed, project designers or architects or landscape architects, if we have a need for some of those people at this point in this planning. So there might be a need for other subject matter experts such as police to come in and talk about security or planning staff. So we're recommending that selection of this group of participants from the advisory committees, the Nature Park Foundation, and the Parks Commission all be accomplished via an appointment by each committee, commissioner, foundation's chairperson, respectively. The members that are at large with specific knowledge or skill could conceivably apply and be interviewed by a subcommittee of the commission and then appointed by the full commission potentially at the September meeting. If approved, the ad hoc committee would begin meeting at the end of September and would probably, again, meet 4 to 6 times and would be aiming to present their findings to the full commission in November or December of this year. There's no real fiscal impact to the committee other than staff time to attend and facilitate the meetings, because this is not making a decision on what's going to be done. That is the commission's purview, but it would be a group to help provide a way to get through and get some more feedback. So if you're not in favor of creating an ad hoc committee to provide a recommendation regarding a programming plan and an updated conceptual plan for Crow Canyon Gardens, you can also choose to delegate the task to the facilities committee, which would just, in essence, put that more in their hands to work through some of these pieces on, or you could agree to handle it as a full commission, although it would necessitate some additional meetings. That's another perfectly reasonable option. So if we were to go through this process, as for any of the other large parks with the commission, it would entail several meetings with which to review plans and figure out what really is the right way to put this park together. So I'm available and here to answer any questions after you've gone to public comment, which I'm certain you probably have some, Chair Barros.
We do have somebody that would like to speak in public comment.
Thank you. Hi, Prenet. Please go ahead and please, we want to keep your comment for 3 minutes, please.
Okay, here we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, we'd like to thank the commissioners for entertaining this motion and welcome newcomers to the commission since I last was in front of it. Congratulations, Chair Sridhar Barros and Vice Chair Carol Lopez Lucy for your new positions. I want to correct any impression you might have just been given that we want to add a bunch of new stuff, a bunch of new things that aren't already there in MUDS and Crow Canyon Gardens. In fact, all we are thinking of funding is the renovation of MUDS Restaurant into a nature education center and / cooking school, and the grounds around it, including repairing the old parking lot. And then in the park itself, once we're done with that phase, we want to replace the picnic area with better tables that are new and going to last a long time, and a good water fountain that also has dog watering, and a good recycling bins with those 4 parts that divide up the trash. The one thing that we do want to add is a wheelchair-friendly hiking and biking loop trail all the way around the park. This would be a DG path compacted, similar to what Sunset has around their the lake at 2600 Camino Ramon. To date, I just wanted to let you know, we have raised $540,000. And this is despite the fact that right after we had all of our events and classes planned for this year, many of them off the park facilities, but several of them we were hoping to start in the summertime because we thought the MOU would be done by then. In March, we had to stop everything, and this is not a time to go after corporate donors, but because we have gained a lot of members, we are trying to fulfill our promise to them by conducting a series of classes online and also with some in-person door drop tastings and book bundles and things like that. We've got a series for gardeners and chefs. We've got a series for kids under 7. We've got a series for artists and those who enjoy art. And we're planning 2 series for holiday cooks around Thanksgiving and Christmas time. So we're not sitting around. We're trying to keep everybody engaged and excited about the park. So I want to thank you, and we look forward with optimism to working with you and this ad hoc committee to develop a proposal that will result in a park that all residents will enjoy and be proud of.
Sounds good. Thank you. Anybody else for the public comment? Okay.
No, no more public comment.
Thank you. So with that, I'll go ahead and close the public comment. So let's go open for our commissioners. I see already. Okay, Commissioner Birnbaum, please go ahead.
You're muted.
Commissioner Birnbaum, you are muted.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you. So commissioners, I'll ask your indulgence because I want to go through and give a perspective of the background that I feel has happened over this project, which really dates back several years. I think we really got involved with Crow Canyon Gardens back in 2018. When we started to try to redefine Crow Canyon Gardens, there were a couple of components that we were dealing with. One was the 2.2 acres of land that was part of the old restaurant and how we were going to integrate that into the existing park. The other component was we actually had a business venture approach us to develop a child care center on the property. And out of that, you know, there was a project that was started. It was called the Crow Canyon Outreach Project. We collected input from residents and input from the community as a whole. And that information was reported, and that information was used to come to the meeting on February 13th of last year, when the commission was asked to make recommendations on the Crow Canyon Garden. And Kathy indicated that there were several motions at that meeting that were reviewed and voted on by the commission at that time. The one major one that I think that we need to refer to is the motion that was made to basically maintain the current 9.7 acres in the current natural state with minimal additional amenities that will only enhance the natural state of the park. That motion was carried and was unanimously agreed to by all the commissioners. I believe that motion basically set the groundworks for what we as a commission felt that park was supposed to basically be designed to. Again, we were talking at that time about what alternatives we had as far as what we could do with the development of the park. And I believe, based on the data that we received from the residents and also from, you know, the various other sources, that we as a community look at this as a very unique park. And we want to leave it in as natural state as possible. So I believe the commission did one of its primary responsibilities, which is programming for the various parks. And I believe that motion and that meeting on the 19th in 2019 defined the direction of what we felt Crow Canyon Gardens ought to be. In June, the master plan was approved by the city council. And as Kathy talked about, in that report, Crow Canyon Gardens was identified as a park that needed renovation. And I wholeheartedly support the idea of renovating that park. And that clearly is one of the responsibilities of the Park Commission, is to basically identify and then develop plans to renovate those parks. And in Kathy's proposal that she brought forward, developing the ad hoc group, I question the need for that, okay? I look at it and I say, we have a process that the city has used time and time again to renovate its parks and to upgrade facilities. And we do have a standing committee that is responsible for that, and that is our facilities subcommittee. Given the fact that we provided that committee with a direction of what we felt the park should be, I feel that committee should be responsible for taking that design concept forward and then turning that into a actual plan for the renovation of the park. I currently, I do have a significant problem with the ad hoc committee approach, given the magnitude of the number of people involved. Kathy, I understand why you want to have all those people involved, but let me tell you, in the years that I've worked in business and in the years that I've managed groups, a group of 11 individuals with 7 support staff is not a group that you can manage. And it's not a group that I feel that you can actually achieve a goal. So I would propose that we look at it in a different light. And I would propose that we look at directing the facilities subcommittee of the Parks Commission to establish a programming plan and update conceptual plan for renovating the Crow Canyon Gardens and associated buildings. The goal here would be to have those plans available and approved for some costing so that those projects could be included in the 2021-22 budget cycle. So thank you for indulging me. That's kind of where my position is and kind of where I feel that we should be going as a commission.
Commissioner Osland.
So in my edification of learning all about this, I pulled up my meeting minutes from January 8th, 2020. And I'm so glad you did this, Kathy, because you gave us an understanding of what local foundations do. And so that's kind of where I started, because I just wanted to sort of get myself up to speed on how this all works and who does what and where the funding comes from and how that all comes together. And there's one statement that I underlined when we had our meeting was, the foundations are all separate private nonprofit entities and do not own or operate the buildings or land that their individual foundations support. So that really stood out to me when we had our meeting. And then I went through our little checklist here of the various different foundations that the city of San Ramon has relationships with and kind of all the different things that they do. So just wanted to note that some of the things that we were asking that the ad hoc committee look at seemed a little bit in conflict with what I thought the role of a foundation would be, about offering classes and programs, permanent recognition for sponsors on sites, priority for scheduling classes and events, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I just was a little bit not clear about how this all comes together. And so I also am in agreement with Chair Birnbaum about the size of the ad hoc committee. It seems like a lot of different groups and people. And in my business experience, it's really difficult to gain consensus when we have such a diverse group. So those are my comments. I also want to see the Crow Canyon Gardens come to life and be beautiful and safe for everyone to use. And so I'd like to hear what other commissioners have to say about this, but I just want to kind of put my comments out there about the foundation and the role that foundations play, and the size of the ad hoc committee concerns me.
Commissioner Kingston-Lee.
With the utmost respect to Commissioner Birnbaum, I actually had the privilege of working on what could be conceived as an ad hoc committee to renovate the library. There were a lot of folks in that group, and it was a wonderfully collaborative experience. Not everybody agreed on everything, but we came to a meeting of the mind. So in my experience, with something fairly similar, it can work. And I think it gives people a voice. It gives them an opportunity to, express their perspective. I mean, I like the fact that we've included somebody from the community. We know there are issues with concerns about noise and particular uses of the property. I certainly appreciate and understand the desire to keep that property in its natural setting. I also feel more than ever, and increasingly, we are going to need spaces for environmental education programming. And Commissioner Birnbaum, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm wondering, are we suggesting by keeping it in its natural state that we don't implement some kind of recreational or environmental education program, or that's simply done through facilities and then adopted by the Parks Commission and then implemented by staff? Is that what you're suggesting?
I am suggesting that the park be taken back to a natural state where the number of buildings on the facilities or on the park be reduced to the minimum number.
So my thinking is, if we go the ad hoc route, if we give it a shot, because we know we have a lot of folks have a lot of energy around this, and I want to be the first to say, I haven't been around with you guys doing the hard work on this, and I recognize that, and I appreciate that you guys have done some heavy lifting on this issue. What I wonder, and I'd like to hear, following Commissioner Oslin's suggestion, I would like to hear from other commissioners, do we feel that all of the stakeholders in this feel like they have provided sufficient input, that their voice has been heard, that we've given it sufficient opportunity to incorporate them into the process, to the point that we now go through a peer commission process and what's set up through facilities? Or is it going to do any harm to have a couple of meetings with these folks? And surely it'll come to light whether there's an ability to move forward in a cohesive fashion, or there isn't, and that we need to go to, this falls within commission's purview. The commission has a process and entities to deal with this, and that's what we're going to do. I guess my question, if I kind of boil it down, I apologize for being a little verbose here, is there value in pursuing the ad hoc committee to see if any positive result can come from it before we go to Commissioner Birnbaum's approach? I just want to hear from folks. I'm still processing.
Commissioner Lopez-Lucy.
Okay. I have to agree with Commissioner Birnbaum. I think that we as a park commissioner have an obligation to plan our parks. And I too think that 17 people, I think it's a lot of people, and in my estimation of dealing with all kinds of people also, it's a very difficult choice. But I guess from experience of working in a foundation, I feel that the city owns this park. This is the city's park. And the foundation usually approaches the park to see what approaches the city as to how you could proceed if you have an idea. But in the meantime, most of the time, in my instance, the city has come to the foundation stating what they need in particular areas. Do you have any money that you could support it? Maybe we want to plan a grant, but we have to show that we have a percentage of money behind us before we proceed with that. And what some of the things that bothered me in this was that foundations don't put signs up in places, and especially if we want this as a nature park, I don't feel that you want signage around. And I think in the past, I've seen Little League and everything try to sell sponsorships for things. And we had to disband that because that didn't work because you didn't get enough there. And I think as a park commission, I think that we can do the work as an ad hoc committee, because I think that's our job. Because I think at our public meetings, we would have specific people come in and give their design that they did. We would have people from the public giving their opinion of what they would like. And I think that for some of the classes that they have recommended, I think, and otherwise we've had cooking classes, we've had yoga classes, otherwise, I think I don't object to nature classes and everything, but I think it can be done on a small scale, but still they have to, a foundation must work with the city, and the city, you know, can say yes or no to issues that you want to do. So I feel that we need to branch out and do this as a whole park. Yes, it needs renovation, but I think it can be done. I think it can be done by the commission as a whole instead of an ad hoc committee, because I feel that that's what we've been appointed to be on the Parks Commission, that we should proceed in that manner. And some of the issues here really bother me is how they want to proceed as a foundation, and they still need to get permission from the city to do projects and programs and everything in that. You just can't do that on your own. You're on city property. You have to follow the city guidelines. And I think some of these things, I think, would go as in the process, in the program here, that some of these things, I think, go against city regulations that they're dealing with other foundations at, and we follow certain rules and regulations. So I think it's the Park Commission's ability to proceed with this instead of an ad hoc committee. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Okay, thank you. One thing, actually I have a few things to say. First of all, thanks Commissioner Birnbaum for giving us the historical perspective of this whole conversation that we had in past, and also how you are looking into this from the objectivity of what we agreed on that motion. And also thanks to Commissioner Kingston-Lee for giving us an idea that ad hoc committee work for our library committee, or sorry, not library committee, but for our San Ramon library renovation purpose. So this is like one thing I would like to say is this is definitely a unique project, which is much massive in comparison with other projects that we undertake, right? For example, when we do like landscaping or doing our parks, relevant to like just now example that we did. So, however, in this case, I think there is the whole community is looking forward to have their say, to have their viewpoint to be added to this park. That's what I expected during our meetings and all that. That's what I observed even during the, like most of the social media that I read. So if we are looking at options, different options, so maybe we should look at how we can partnership with a private entity. In this case, for example, the nature park, right? And also how we can utilize their resources so that we can scale it. Right now, I see that we have so many events going on, cultural activities going on, right? So if we want to scale to the level where we can continue to provide a quality services for the community, maybe we should need to open up some thought process. That's one of my thinking about this whole request. So I see Commissioner Birnbaum, you raise your hand. Could you please go ahead?
Yeah, and a couple of things. You know, I'm glad we're having a dialogue about this. Commissioner Lee, I appreciate your comments about the Library Foundation. I was not on the commission at that time, so I wasn't aware of that process. What I am proposing does not exclude the community from having input. As Kathy has told me, is that all of the facilities meetings that we would have would be public meetings, and they would be there would be the opportunity for the public to have input on it. What I am suggesting is that we have a structure and we have a process for doing renovation and modifications to our parks in place that we have used time and time again over the years, and it has worked. Okay, and it is a structure that can be easily implemented and can get the input from the public, as I think we all need, but also will allow us to get to a point where we can have a conclusion to this. As I said, this process has been going on for almost 3 years, okay? And it's not as if the public hasn't been invited in and the public has not provided input, because that's what came out of that report. It was a report from the public of what they wanted. We hired consultants to provide input. It was not a back of the envelope survey monkey type of thing. This was a professionally done review. And so in my mind, we've gone down this road pretty far, okay? And the commission made a very, I believe, deliberate decision when we passed that one resolution, which basically said we want to keep it in a natural state as possible. If you go on to the San Ramon Nature Foundation's website and review what they are saying they want to do with the park, it is not in any way, shape, or form what Frenette Armstrong presented on the call today. There is a detailed map of what they want to do with the park. There is an extensive list of activities and funding options and different things that they want to do, which is inconsistent with what the city has done with other foundations and with what the city, how the city operates. And that in itself presents another problem to me with what certain groups want to do with the park. And it's inconsistent to me with what our role is. And our role is to look at the data, look at what the community is looking for, and then go ahead and implement that.
Mr.
Shadar, I just want to say there is also a public comment waiting as well.
You've already closed public comment, but you can reopen it at the end if you would.
Yeah, let's reopen at the end. So let's continue with our conversation. Commissioner Kenny Stanley, please.
So my distillation of this exchange, which I very much appreciate, is that this commission wants to do the work that they were asked to do. That's sort of what I'm hearing, that the feeling is that the process is in place to consider the item sufficiently and with all of the stakeholders involved. And I imagine that would be one outcome of this item, is the fact that everybody is invested in making good decisions for this property, and they want to be involved. And that's a brilliant thing. That's a great thing. So I appreciate kind of all the work that you guys have done and where you're coming from, and the fact that you basically don't want to offload this to just a couple of commissioners to do the heavy lifting. Everybody feels very invested in doing the right thing for this space. And I do appreciate that. It was very valuable input. So thank you for that.
Okay, with that, I'll open public comment. Okay, let's see. Frenet, please go ahead. Keep your comment for 3 minutes, please.
Right, how to unmute. Okay. This is Fernette Armstrong again. And Don Birnbaum, I take issue with your characterization of our website. Yes, there is a map, but if you look at it, all it adds is a hiking trail loop. It shows where Muds is. It shows the parking lot. It shows the picnic area. It shows the demonstration gardens, and it shows the community gardens. It doesn't, and all it shows that isn't really there now is an enhanced and beautified lawn area, which at this time just has piles of manure and mulch in it around the picnic tables. If that land were cleared and we could reseed it with drought tolerant, low water grass, it could be used all the time by the local residents. Other than that, we don't have anything else on our website. And what I said to you tonight is true. All we want to do is renovate, repair, and improve the amenities that are already there. And the only one thing we would add is a wheel-friendly path around the whole park with some activity stations for kids and adults to participate together and get exercise in place of a standard playground. And we have some drawings and some photos of the kinds of things that we are thinking of. We're happy to present them to you or a committee, but other options that were told to me were that you would take away the whole lawn area and the picnic area and turn it into more community garden space. So maybe 24 additional people would have use of that land instead of all the hundreds of neighbors around it. And the picnic table would be moved in the back into a shady area by the compost heap. And that the parking lot would be abandoned and more virgin land would be mowed down and paved over for additional parking. And our parking plan includes nose-in parking along Park Place. And we have the space to include 44 cars and return more land to nature if we repair the existing parking lot for Muds. And then we have ample parking for everything. Our classes and events are not anything that anyone who loves nature would object to. I mean, they involve astronomy and crafts and art outside and photography, ways to get people outside and engaged with each other and nature and the environment, learning about it. And our cooking classes are not going to be the kind that you think of. They're going to show people how to use fresh, natural ingredients to prepare easy meals and easy dishes for their families. And some of them they will prepare with us and take home and bake themselves for the families. Others, they will come here and watch and then they can go home and do it. But it's not like a French cooking class or something like that.
3 minutes is up.
I'm done.
Thank you. I see Commissioner Dolry. Oh, sorry, before that, let me close the public comment because I don't see anybody else comment. So, Commissioner Dolry, please go ahead.
Thank you. I would urge everybody, both the public participants and the commission, pun intended, get out of the weeds and back to what we were here to discuss, which is the ad hoc committee, yes or no. We're getting into details, we're getting into development issues, we're getting into everything but whether there should be a ad hoc committee. So I would urge everybody to get back on track and discuss that and not discuss particulars, development, or visions of what's happening, because I believe that's just way ahead of the curve. And the intent of this particular agendized item. We need to stick to the agendized item and not into the development of the facilities, the development of the land, et cetera, et cetera. The agendized item is, should there or should there not be an ad hoc committee?
I love all your emotions and expressions. Thank you. I see Commissioner Birnbaum, please go ahead.
Yeah, I have a point of clarification, Kathy. Okay, I agree with Commissioner Darlich. We need to move on, and we need to address either the specific item that you brought forward with, or I would like to propose an alternative to be considered. So I don't know whether we need to vote on yours first and then, vote on mine, or how do you want to go about it? But I do have a counter proposal.
No, you can just make a motion that's on this topic. I mean, as long as it's on this topic of going through and coming up with a plan and a conceptual plan, then you don't have to make a motion on the ad hoc. You can simply make a motion on whatever your idea is.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion. That motion is to direct the Facilities Subcommittee of the Parks Commission to establish a programming plan and an updated conceptual plan for the renovation of Crow Canyon Gardens and the associated buildings.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? No, so let's go for vote, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Dorlick,
Yes.
Commissioner Kensington Lee. You're muted.
You're still muted.
Bottom left.
I got it.
Commissioner Birnbaum,
Yes.
Commissioner Oslin,
Aye.
Commissioner Roberts,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez Lucy,
Aye.
Chair Veros.
Yes.
Thank you.
So do we need to do the second motion on this one, or?
Nope, that's adequate. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, let's move to item 8.3, Preserve Development Park naming, presented by Kathy, Director, Parks Services, Parks and Communities.
All right, so we are back at the park naming for the Preserve Park. So as you know, at our last meeting, we kind of went through this. And just to catch you up, it's recommended that the commission review the park name options selected by the Facilities Committee and finalize a name selection for the new park located in the Preserve Home development. So I think you all know which park we're talking about, 12.7 acres, fabulous, beautiful views. Park amenities include playground, synthetic turf fields, walking paths, restroom, shaded picnic areas, tennis courts, basketball courts. I mean, it goes on. It's a very beautiful and active park. You first met on the Facilities Committee, went through a public naming process. We received 425 names by the first deadline. They brought 5 names forward to the Parks Commission, which you liked, but really felt you needed more options and potentially some more historic names for consideration. So the Facilities Committee again went back out to the public, and we picked up, I think it was 30 more names that came in, 12 of which were unique new ones, some were repeats. In addition to that, Commissioner Lopez Lucy contacted Bev Lane, a local historian, and was advised by Ms. Lane that the land that the park is on used to be known as Pacheco Rancho. And the committee seriously considered this for a name, but felt that without knowing more about the Pachecos and their impact on the valley, that naming a park after them could be problematic if something negative related to the family's history came to light. And so at this point, they did not think that that was going to be a good name. In addition, Ms. Lane advised that the Tatkan tribe was considered to be a part of the Bay Miwoks. However, they resided in Danville area, not in the area of the new park in San Ramon. So in looking at the other Native American potential names, the committee also considered the name Susan, as that tribe is from the San Ramon area, but the facilities committee felt that it was a little too similar to our existing park, Suyin. So Suyin, Susan, that they might become confused and to people when identifying which park is which, like I'll meet you at Susan and they show up at Suyin. But those are both Indian names from the region. In addition, Commissioner Lopez Lucy consulted with Roxanne Lindsay, who's a Wiedemann family member, about the potential historic names for the park. The Wiedemanns are one of the oldest families that still reside in the area and have a great knowledge of the history of San Ramon. However, Ms. Lindsay did not have any historic names to add to the list. So after quite a lengthy discussion with the facilities committee, they are recommending that the park either be named one of their original names, Sunrise Ridge Park, denoting the unique physical geography and location as a place that one could go to see the sunrise over San Ramon, or Inspiration Park, another name that they had originally, as a recognition that we are in a difficult period and that the new park will be a place of inspiration with beautiful vistas that may inspire those who go there. So I would suggest that you open for public comment at this point, and then after that, begin with facilities committee members so they can elaborate on why they particularly narrowed down and felt these two were the best names for the park. Ultimately, it is up to you to select the final name, and we'll need a motion, a second, and a voice vote when you finally get there after public comment. That's all I have.
Thank you, Kathy. Public comment open, please. Anyone for public comment?
We did have a comment through email. It's through Dave Ernest, and he has stated, I would like to submit the name Wilderness Park under the agenda item 8.3. Thank you to the commission for their consideration. That's the only public comment we have.
Thank you. Then we go ahead and close the public comments. Okay, commissioners. Okay, I see Commissioner Birnbaum, please go ahead.
Well, first of all, I want to thank all of the other commissioners for, going along with and to a certain degree indulging me to allow us to go for another 30 days to look for additional names. I just want to add in, I did reach out to one of our local historians and asked him if he had any suggestions about potential names. And his comment was that he did not have any suggestions. So I am absolutely thrilled with the names that we have, and I am welcoming an opportunity to vote on one.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Roberts.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment here and then also a suggestion. But I'm happy that we put this back out to the community. I'm happy that we had some activity there and we had some new names. It would have been nice to see some more names, but it is what it is, and I'm just happy that we went back out there and got people to participate and think about some historical significance to this park. But as I was reading, it looked like there was a little bit more information this time regarding the why behind the names that we've landed with, and that caught my eye because I thought about the fact that the reason why we went out to the community again was to look for some kind of historical significance to this new park. But then I thought, well, based on one of the definitions or one of the reasons why we're choosing one of these names, I thought, well, maybe we don't have to be so historical, go back in time. Maybe this is an opportunity to sort of create a name around and make it historical, so people in 100 years from now look back and say, gosh, they really put some time into looking into this. And I really liked, although I like the Sunridge, the name, I like the definition of the Inspiration Park, which was the idea of, this park inspires, us in this pandemic, this global crisis, right? So I thought that was actually, interesting, and that caught my eye. But my suggestion would be to say, take that definition from Inspiration Park, move it over to the Sunrise Ridge name, so that we can then say, in the future, and any time is standing on that ridge park, to say that, in a global crisis, we know that we could always look to the east and the sun is always going to rise. And that, to me, caught my eye, and it made me feel like, okay, now we've got a name with some significance, that anytime in the future, we're going to have a park that has some historical feature to it. And maybe even someday there could be some kind of plaque that says, this park was created out of, in a pandemic, and we could always look to the sun rising in the east in San Ramon. So that was my thought on it, and it's my suggestion. So.
Sounds good. Commissioner Osland?
Thank you, Scott. I really like that. I'm having a moment here, taking that in. I love using historic, history to help us name our places of interest in our parks. But we did do our due diligence, and we dug deep, and we really, other than the Suisan tribe, that was really the only tribe in this area that would have, the name is where they were. So given that, the geographic location and the relationship to the surroundings is, to me, kind of the next level of, how I needed to really take a serious look about what do we name this park. And going to this area, it's at the top of the ridge, and you have some beautiful views of the south and of the east. And I have made several trips to watch the sunrise, and you can see it really well there. So my vote is for Sunrise Ridge Park. I really like where Scott was going with this. I don't know how we could maybe incorporate the two, and I don't want to belabor this any longer. I'm really glad we did open it back up. We got some more names, but it just thinking about, it just got me thinking about a lot of possible events that we could do. We could start with the sunrise, and we could have a city walk down to the farmer's market on a Saturday. There's a lot of different things that we could be thinking of to use the sunrise, just the idea of that. So my vote is Sunrise Ridge Park because of where it is geographically, and the vistas, and the ability to be able to see that sunrise without obstruction is what I would vote for.
Quick clarification, thanks, Julia. I just want to make sure that I wasn't suggesting to combine the names or anything. My vote is also for the Sunrise Ridge. I liked what I read about the Inspiration Park in terms of the idea that this park is something that we can look forward to in a pandemic, that there's a symbol of hope, a symbol that we could always, again, like I said, we could always look to the east, and the sun is always going to rise, even in this global pandemic. And so,
and I love that, Scott. I think that's a really nice addition. Yes.
Yeah, and so I'm not trying to make it longer or combine names or anything like that. Sunrise Ridge is where I would think. I just hope we can move that idea about the hope symbolism around that to that's all.
Thank you.
Commissioner Darling.
Thank you, Chair Rose. So I'm just glad we didn't get like Jefferson Davis Park. So that's a relief. I mean, I agree with, that it's an inspiring view, but if we go to the south, there is a area in West Dublin known as Inspiration, Point and Park, Avenue, so it's a little bit, close proximity. So if we're ready to put a motion in, I'll put a motion on the table that we name the park Sunrise Ridge Park.
Sorry to interrupt, but we have more commissioners raise their hands. So especially this is I see our student commissioner Amrita also raised her hand.
Okay, well, if there's anybody that's opposed to it, I guess we could have them speak because we've already had 4 people speak in favor of it.
So,
but I will defer to the chair.
Sorry, let's just, Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
I just wanted to thank Scott for bringing that, the inspiration to what you said, that, looking to the sun and all that. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I thank you for, bringing that out, that we can use that as part of that. So I really thank you for that, because I too am for the Sunrise Ridge Park. That's all I wanted to say. Just thank you for that inspiration.
Student Commissioner Ramesh.
From just adding on a youth perspective, I'm well aware that a lot of my peers frequent a lot of sunrise and sunset points, whether it's an official city trail or park or just a random lookout point that they found. So I think naming a park Sunrise Ridge would be very effective at getting a lot of teens to sort of stray away from the private property that they spend time on and to an actual city park where they can get a good view to spend time at.
Excellent. Okay, Commissioner Dollery, you want to move the?
I'm sorry?
So yeah, we are good. I think definitely let's go ahead and.
Well, I move that we name the Faria Park Sunrise Ridge Park. Period.
Anybody to second?
I second it.
Okay, sounds good. So let's any further discussion? So I don't see any hands raised. So Madam Clerk, let's go for vote.
You're
muted.
Commissioner Dorlick,
Yes.
Commissioner Kensington Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Birnbaum,
Aye.
Commissioner Oslin,
Aye.
Commissioner Roberts,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez Lucy,
Aye.
and Chair Veros.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, let's move to the next item, 8.4, 2021 committee and liaison assignments. My window is blocked by something here.
So at this point in time, Chair Veros has taken the feedback that we gathered from all of you and placed it into new liaison assignments. We were able to send that out to all of you. We could also put it up on the screen if anyone has a need to see it. But otherwise, Chair Veros, if you had any questions or concerns in regards to the assignments that you've been given, then this would be a good time to bring it up for consideration.
Oh, I'm good. Thanks, Kathy. I'm good. Unless if any commissioners have any questions. Okay, cool. Oh, I see Commissioner Bonmont.
I want to apologize to the people who are on the facilities committee that I've given you a whole pile of work to do.
We can always call on experts to help us.
And I'm thinking of switching with Commissioner Bonmont from the facilities.
So if there are no questions or concerns, then it just stands as is as Chair Veros's delegation. So you can move on to the next item.
Thank you. Next item, staff reports, 9.1, recreation program and community services report.
Does anyone have any questions about anything that is listed in the recreation report?
Kathy,
I see one hand, Commissioner Kenny Stanley.
Yeah, on the San Ramon Neighbor Express program, Kathy, I noticed that in qualifying volunteers, there was an age restriction of 18 to 59. And I know a lot of really healthy folks over that age who would not be receiving services because clearly that would be a conflict of interest, who would, you know, may want to help. And so I'm just curious, is that an insurance issue or what? Where does that age limit come from?
Well, the 18 one came from the fact that the meal delivery is primarily in the middle of the day.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, and then because they're recommending that people over the age of 60 shelter in place during the pandemic, we felt like having, you know, somebody that would be in an at-risk community out delivering to somebody else in that group just didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. And so really that's the core we're looking at. Now, I'm certain if there's somebody that really wants to, then, you know, they can talk to me and we can see what we can do, because I don't want to preclude anybody, but I also don't want to put anybody in harm's way that might be at a higher risk until.
Thank you for explaining. Thanks.
Commissioner Bonbon.
Hey, Kathy, how did we get through the summer? Did we have any kind of issues with the camps?
We made it through the summer. We're feeling quite good about that. No, we did not have any COVID-19 related issues with camps. We had, you know, just our normal selection of minor bumps and bruises and things like that, but nothing significant. Really, really proud of our staff for what they delivered. And they're going to be coming to the next commission meeting to kind of give you a update on what happened this summer, because it was really different what we did and how we had to accommodate.
Well, you know, it speaks volumes to you and all the management, you know, for all the time and effort you guys put together to set them up for success.
I'll pass that along.
I think too that in reading reading it, I think you've done an excellent job, not only with the camps that you were going on and you were feeding the seniors and you were helping those in need. So I think you've been on overload, but I think you and the staff and other members of the city that have staff that have participated, maybe other than the parks, like their policemen and everything that have helped you. I think you've done an outstanding job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll really pass that on to the staff and they will really appreciate it because they really, really have put forth a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Commissioner Osland.
In addition to what Carol just said, I totally, you know, rubber stamp that, but I'm looking at the swimming and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, 172% increase in passes. Oh my goodness. Everybody's jumping in that water. They want to move. So, wow, that's pretty amazing. So, and yeah, all that you have done for the seniors is amazing. It's just incredible. So thank you. You guys really hit it out of the park.
Commissioner Lee.
Yeah, I was going to ask on page 28, the Easy to Hike program. I wanted to be refreshed on whether that's had some real estate on the city's the homepage, and what is that process? I know we have communications professionals now, which is awesome. But what is the process of getting parks programs on the homepage? And do you feel that that brings a lot more participation? And do you feel like we're getting our fair share of real estate on the homepage?
Well, I think to go back to your first question on Easy to Hike, that we've seen a huge bump from people using a phone-based app. And so it just incredible numbers on the Easy to Hike. And then again, with the Agents of Discovery. So we are definitely pursuing all those sorts of resources because that's what people really want to do. And it helps engage everyone. So that's one thing. The city website is a very full place. So it's a challenge to try and get people to navigate through to where you want them to go. Again, why I think sometimes the simplicity of an app or the social media push, it's easier for people to find. And they're like, oh, I get that. I can do this versus, you know, weaving through a city website to find the right place for it. It's all there if you want to go look for it, but it's not as easy to find.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yeah, I would also like to, reiterate what everyone else is saying, Kathy, about, all the hard work that you and the staff have put in, especially during this time of this pandemic, around keeping the community engaged, and then as well as, specifically around the seniors, who are really our at most risk group, and they're not just suffering from worrying about getting sick, but also dealing with isolation and those types of things. And so thank you for that. I did come across a group, and maybe this is for a different time to bring this up, or I also noticed that we switched groups to be involved in as liaisons. It looks like I'm a part of the senior advisory. So this is something I could bring up with them as well. But I thought that, I'm working with a group right now that is providing some donations, things like face shields and things like that to seniors. And I thought that this would be a great opportunity to make that connection to our senior group, and maybe talk to you first about that, Kathy, to see how we can go about making that connection and getting this group directly involved with our senior community and making those donations to them.
Absolutely. Just provide the information and we would gladly take them and redistribute them. So,
okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So thank you. I just want to echo with appreciation from my fellow commissioners for our great Parks and Community Services Department. Thank you. Thanks for all your great work. Okay, with that, moving to item 9.2, maintenance and operations report.
And I will note that we've got both Scott and Brent on the call. So if you have questions, they are here.
Any hands raised? So with that, okay, let's go to item number 10, update on city council reports.
Okay, there were only a few items, couple resolutions that were approved. Number 2020-068, which was executing an agreement with Western Water Features, which we've talked about before, for the San Ramon Olympic Pool and Aquatic Park. They were the lowest bid firm that came in at around $910,000. So that is not to exceed $1 million, essentially around $1 million, 1,748, funded by the 2009 Certificate of Participation Debt Financing. So that has been approved. And then resolution number 2020-072, executing an agreement number 2, an amendment number 2 to the agreement with CNW Construction to provide services for the Al Costa Senior and Community Center renovation and the San Ramon Community Center renovation in the amount of $470,000 for a cumulative amount not to exceed $3.856 million. So those are the two resolutions that were approved. We had a city council meeting this week, or was it yesterday, that was canceled. And then there was one item that came through here that caught my eye, which was presented in one of the earlier meetings. The proclamation declaring July 2020 as Parks Make Life Better Month. So that is the update for City Council.
Thank you. With that, next item 11, committee reports. I'll just go like the sequence that I see on my screen. So let's start with Commissioner Birnbaum.
So we had an open space committee meeting on Monday. There were really two major things that we discussed. We discussed a trail naming protocol, and that protocol was basically the similar protocol that we're using for parks. One of the things that we're running into is we're starting to open up new trails, and so we needed to have a consistent naming protocol. So that was reviewed. And then we did talk about the open space hikes, and given the current situation with COVID and that, no hikes are scheduled at this point for the near future. And then the last thing is something that, I think is near and dear to us is that we're starting to, the staff is starting to collect information regarding how different cities view open space and how they account for that in relationship to their entire park system. So they're starting to do some really great information, finding out whether, how different cities look at how much acreage they have as open space and how do they count that in relationship to open space that it has trails or open space that is just, open with no trails on it. So I think it's going to be something that's going to come forward at some point where we look at how we then now start looking at our open space as truly part of the park system.
Thank you. Commissioner Robert. I think you already gave the, right?
Yes.
Nothing.
Yes.
Commissioner Osland.
I serve on the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, and our meeting was on August 2nd. One of the committee business that I'll report out on is that there's going to be a collaboration between the Senior Advisory Committee and the Teen Council to create some synergy with the teens and the seniors to have some conversations. So was in the works when we had our meeting on the 2nd. The other thing that I'll report out on is that they're planning on, the committee members are each going to pick 4 senior related facilities that they're going to visit virtually. And they're going to be done by the end of September to kind of see what other senior citizen facilities are doing as far as programming, outreach, etc. And then they'll each report back and distill a report to share in November. And then the last thing was the Neighborhood Express is being brought in. It's an organization that coordinates volunteers, and Kathy alluded to that and so did Commissioner Lee about the outreach for our seniors and casting a wider net to help relieve some of the needs from our staff. So Walnut Creek and Concord use this organization and have been happy with that. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Kinnison Lee.
I'm new. I will tackle my assignments from now on.
So Commissioner Dorlick.
Thank you, Chair. And Commissioner Birnbaum, just let the Open Space Advisory Committee know that Sunrise Ridge is already taken.
But maybe Inspiration Trail.
Well, now we know that. Now we know when there's some of the trails up there that we need to name. We could actually name one of the trails Sunrise Ridge Trail.
Well, yeah, but just don't do Inspiration. You'll end up in Dublin. They'll cross the border. So the Arts Advisory Committee meeting, a couple of things. We brought up the Poet Laureate program. That was one of the key areas of the discussion at the meeting, was the program and also the application. So there was a discussion about really expanding the definition, of a poet laureate, and some other discussion regarding, performance speaking versus poetry. So got into a little bit of a artistic license there. And then also the committee started to review the 5-year cultural plan. The plan right now is the 2018 to 2022. So started to look at, what should be included, going forward. Also including the Parks Master Plan along with that. So there were new committee leadership that was selected as well. And then there was a culture in the community update and feedback, as well as limited discussion, since there weren't a lot of live cultural programs, but there were some virtual programs, including the one, I don't know if anybody participated in it last Sunday evening on the 2nd, but there was a cultural program on Sunday evening, the 2nd, that was quite original and quite entertaining and edifying. So there'll be more Zoom type of programs like that. The interesting thing is that there were not only people from all over the Bay Area participating with their art, but also a Indian musician that participated via Zoom from India. So it was truly a global experience. So keep your eyes on those. There's more of those to come. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
Thank you. The Economic Development Committee did not have a meeting, and the Planning Commission met on Tuesday evening, and the basic outcome of it is that the City Walk Master Plan they approved, and it now will proceed to the City Council. That's my report.
Thank you. Student Commissioner Ramesh.
The teen council had our first meeting in retreat earlier this month, and we hope to expand and continue the programs that we're already doing on an online platform. And as Commissioner Osland previously stated, we are also hoping to work with the Senior Advisory Committee to develop a senior health check program so that we can build a relationship with the senior citizens in our town.
Thank you. And my side, we had a library committee meeting. One of the few things that we did is like election of officers. That's like new chair is elected. And also our senior community library manager, Dina Hollard, she presented about our library opening for during this whole pandemic with prepared how we are going to tackle with like the librarians as well as from the visitors for the library. She presented the whole plan. That was fantastic. And another thing is the important thing I can think of is the verbal presentation by Brad Morris, our program manager, regarding our Doty Valley College. I think it's he put it here as a Doty Valley. Actually, it should be Diablo Valley College. So we need to fix that one. So Diablo Valley College San Ramon campus library update. So the library is going to be, it's in the process of building, and not only the library, but we are going to get a cafeteria along with the library, which can be served for the community. So we are definitely looking forward for that. So those are some of the important updates I have from library committee. Okay, with that, item number 12, commission member items. Okay, so I'll once again, is anybody have like, if you can raise your hand, then I'll just walk through. Nobody have anything to say?
I do.
Okay, please go ahead.
A couple weeks back, Scott and I took a tour with the San Ramon FC group to visit their COVID-19, kind of their schedule of practice. And it was really great. They've got a really good system down. We met them at Iron Horse Middle School. The kids show up 15 minutes before their scheduled practice. They get their temperature. They have to have a signed waiver. They know exactly where they got to go. They have their cones where they put their stuff. They're spread out, and it was really well organized. And everybody looked like they were, following all the rules, and all the fields were being used. So it was really great to participate and get that tour from the organization. I don't know if you have anything you want to add, Scott, about that, but I was really glad I did that.
Yeah, I think it was a great tour. It was really just, it was nice to see the kids out there, following the protocols, of course, and kids weren't allowed to touch any balls except their own that they would bring, and or touch any equipment, and it was a good it was a great thing. So so yeah, that's
Yeah. And the grass is awesome. The grass is so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Loved it. So nice job.
Brent's on the call, so you can say that again. He would probably like to hear it.
That grass is awesome, Brent. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice work.
I have to agree. Our field staff is just doing an amazing job there. So I'll let Brent kind of chime in also.
Yeah, thank you so much. Our staff has been working extremely hard, even during these downtimes, and we're super proud of how everything looks. And we thank you for appreciating that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you.
we walked the entire length of that of Central Park, so it was really nice.
Thank you very much.
Great job.
So with that, I don't see any more hands. Okay, so with that, item number 13, adjournment.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Stay safe, stay healthy.